My wife secretly made fun of my cooking dreams to her friends, so I became a chef. Got a TV show and left her in the dust. I'm a 34-year-old guy, and ever since I was a kid, the kitchen has been the only place I've ever truly felt like myself. I grew up in a house where silence was currency. My dad worked night shifts and treated noise like a personal insult. My mom, she floated around like a ghost, there but not present. I wasn't athletic, I wasn't loud, and I didn't make straight A's. I wasn't bad, I was just invisible. But when I was 10, I cooked my first meal alone, scrambled eggs with cheese and pepper. And when I tasted it, something clicked. For the first time in my life, I had made something that made me feel whole. Cooking became my secret world. After school, while other kids were glued to video games, I'd be watching reruns of Iron Chef and scribbling recipes in an old math notebook. I couldn't explain why it mattered so much, it just did. It gave me a voice when no one wanted to hear mine. Claire came into my life when I was 29. She was magnetic, confident, a total social butterfly. We met at a friend's dinner party, and she actually complimented my homemade lemon garlic pasta. "You made this?" she asked, shocked. I felt like a teenager again, flustered and proud. We clicked fast, like two puzzle pieces that didn't know they were missing each other. Within a year we were married. I really thought she understood me. She used to tell her friends, "My husband's a total foodie. He could have been a chef if he wanted." I'd smile, half embarrassed, half dreaming. At night, I'd whisper to her about opening a food truck someday. She'd nod, kiss my forehead, and say, "Maybe one day, babe," but I should have paid more attention to how she said it, like a mom humoring a child, and that maybe would come back to haunt me. I used to talk about my food truck idea like it was some distant star I could reach with enough time. I'd come home from work, still in my button-down and slacks, and light up when a new recipe popped into my head. What if I called it Fork and Flame? I asked her one night, genuinely excited. Street-style comfort food with gourmet twists, short rib sliders, mac and cheese egg rolls, stuff like that. She didn't even look up from her laptop. "That's a fun little fantasy," she said, smirking. "But we need to be realistic." She always used that word, realistic, like dreams were just a phase you're supposed to grow out of. Whenever I'd bring up ideas, a YouTube cooking channel, a pop-up booth at the farmer's market, private dinner events for couples, she'd nod politely, then pivot. "You know what we really need to do?" she'd say. "Save for a down payment. Maybe get a second car. And I want to invest in branding for my event business." I'd sit there feeling my excitement drain out like a slow leak. She made it sound like I was chasing butterflies while she was building something real. I tried to tell myself she was just practical, that she didn't mean to sound dismissive. But it stung, every single time. Once I mentioned a local culinary school that offered night classes. Her response? "I just don't want you to waste money on something that's not going anywhere." I laughed it off, shrugged, buried the ache, but over time it became clear. She didn't see my dream as a dream. She saw it as a hobby, a phase, a child's game, and worse. Maybe she saw me the same way. I started wondering if the person I married ever truly believed in me at all. Turning 33 wasn't something I planned to celebrate in a big way. I've never been the kind of guy who needed a crowd to feel special. A quiet dinner, a glass of wine, maybe a night in with Claire, that would have been perfect. So when I walked into our apartment that evening and heard a chorus of "surprise" explode from the living room, I was caught completely off guard. The place was packed, her coworkers, a few of our friends, even her cousin who always looked at me like I was some unfinished project. I smiled, genuinely touched. Claire ran up and hugged me, whispering, "You deserve this." For a moment, I believed her. Until I saw the food. Every dish came from a catering company, neat little labels reading gourmet, artisan, handcrafted. I didn't recognize a single flavor. No sign of my favorites. No slow-braised ribs, no garlic mashed potatoes, not even the lemon tart I made for her birthday last year. I tried to shrug it off, but my chest tightened anyway. "Didn't want you cooking on your birthday," she said when she noticed my glance. "Plus, catering was just easier," her friends giggled nearby. One of them, tipsy and loud, clinked her glass and said, "Good call, Claire. You saved us from another one of his experiments." The room erupted in laughter. I forced a smile. Pretended it didn't bother me. Played the part of the good husband who could laugh at himself. but every laugh felt like a slap I wasn't allowed to acknowledge. Later that night, after the guests left, I stood in the kitchen alone, staring at the untouched ingredients I'd bought the day before, just in case she'd wanted me to cook. That's when it hit me. Maybe she never wanted my kind of love. Maybe she just wanted a version of me that fit her image, and for the first time I started to feel something shift, something small but sharp, like the beginning of resentment. It was a Thursday night, one of those slow, quiet evenings when everything feels a little too calm. Claire was in the bedroom folding laundry, and I was chopping vegetables for a late dinner. Nothing fancy, just roasted red pepper pasta with seared chicken. The kind of meal that soothes me from the inside out. Our Bluetooth speaker, this little black box she bought during a Black Friday sale, sat on the counter next to me. She'd used it earlier to play music while cleaning, and I guess she never disconnected her phone. Out of nowhere, her voice blasted through the speaker. Loud, clear, unfiltered. Ugh, he actually thinks he's going to be a chef one day. Bless his heart. I froze. The knife paused mid-slice. Her friend laughed, this high, shrill cackle like she'd just heard the best joke in the world. Claire kept going. It's adorable, really. He gets so into it. But come on, it's just a hobby. I'd never actually let him embarrass me like that in public. A food truck? Please. It felt like someone dumped ice water down my spine. She was still in the bedroom, unaware that every word was pouring into the kitchen where I stood, rooted to the floor. I didn't move. I didn't blink. Just listened to my wife tear apart the one part of me that still felt sacred. When I finally reached over and turned the speaker off, the silence that followed was deafening. She didn't just laugh at my dream, she laughed at me. And worse, she did it behind my back with someone else, like I was some delusional man-child who needed protecting from his own ambition. In that moment, the woman I married didn't feel like my partner anymore. She felt like a stranger holding a dagger behind her smile. And I didn't even know how to confront her without breaking. I didn't say a word that night. Not when she came into the kitchen asking if the pasta was ready. Not when she kissed me on the cheek like nothing had happened. I plated her food, sat across from her, and nodded at all the right times during small talk. But inside, I was somewhere else entirely. From that moment on, I started watching her differently, like someone studying a pattern instead of a person. I noticed how she laughed a little too hard when her friends made digs about guys who don't grow up. How she interrupted me when I talked about new recipes I wanted to try, always steering the conversation back to mortgages, wedding venues, or her latest branding gig. And every time I shared a win, like finally nailing a tough reduction sauce or learning to make handmade pasta, she'd offer a thin smile and say something like, "That's cute, babe. You should totally make that when my clients come over. They'll love it." It wasn't support. It was containment, so I did the only thing that felt like mine again. I cooked. Late at night, when she fell asleep to her crime dramas, I'd sneak into the kitchen. I started filming short recipe videos. Just my hands, my cutting board, a warm voiceover explaining each step. Nothing fancy. I didn't show my face. I used a fake name. I uploaded them to TikTok and Instagram, telling myself it was harmless. Just to see if anyone cared, I whispered, like I needed permission. Turns out people did care. A couple dozen views became a few hundred. Then 1,000. Comments rolled in. "This looks amazing. I can smell this through the screen. Where's your restaurant?" It was the first time in years I felt seen, really seen, without being told to shrink. And the best part? Claire had no idea. I still remember the exact video that changed everything. It was a 60-second voiceover of me making garlic butter mushroom pasta, just 5 ingredients under $10 one pan. I filmed it with my phone wedged in a stack of cookbooks, edited it in bed while Claire slept beside me, then uploaded it at 1:42 a.m. by the time I woke up. It had over 20,000 views. The comments came in fast and loud. "Dude, this is restaurant level. Where's your food truck? I'd be there every day. You should have your own show. Please drop a cookbook." I stared at the screen, stunned. Then I refreshed. 35,000 views, 800 comments. Brands started DMing, small cookware companies, spice blends, even a meal delivery startup. One asked if I'd make a recipe using their olive oil. $150 for a 30-second video. I almost cried. Claire was in the living room watching reruns of Selling Sunset, completely unaware that just one wall away, her husband was quietly going viral. I kept it hidden. Every like, every follow, every collaboration. I buried it beneath our shared calendar of dinner parties and quarterly savings goals. She still called my cooking a quirky side thing. She still offered to let me cook for her clients' events, as if I was some free caterer, not a man building something real. What she didn't know was that her joke had become my momentum. Every snide comment, every eye roll, every dismissive laugh, it all fueled me. I wasn't just making food anymore. I was building an identity, one plate, one post, one night at a time, and the version of me she kept trying to shrink was quietly outgrowing her. Fast. She didn't see the storm coming, but it was already in motion. The email landed in my inbox on a quiet E. Tuesday afternoon. Subject line, feature opportunity, local cooking talent. I almost deleted it, assuming it was spam. But something made me open it. A local TV station was doing a segment called Kitchen Underdogs, a feel-good piece highlighting home cooks making waves online. One of the associate producers had stumbled across my mushroom pasta video and loved the humble but confident vibe of my page. She asked if I'd be interested in filming a short profile. At first, I panicked. My hands got clammy. My first instinct was to say no. Claire still didn't know. Going public, really public, meant stepping into the light without her permission. But then I read the email again, and something inside me whispered, "You don't need permission anymore," so I said yes. And for the first time, I used my real name. Filming took one day. The crew was kind. I cooked a lemon herb chicken over risotto, told my story, minus the betrayal, and smiled like I wasn't shaking inside. When it aired, I watched it alone on my phone during lunch. Then my phone started buzzing, texts from coworkers, DMs from new followers, and then Claire. She had seen it at brunch on the restaurant's wall-mounted TV. Her friends recognized me before she did. She came home, stunned. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, standing in the doorway like someone I barely knew. I dried my hands on a kitchen towel, looked her in the eye, and said, "You always said it was just a hobby." She didn't respond right away, just stared at me like I was someone she'd never quite understood. And honestly, that was the first moment I realized how far apart we'd really grown. The man she dismissed was no longer the man standing in front of her, and I wasn't going to shrink, back down for her comfort ever again. It was like someone flipped a switch. Suddenly, Claire couldn't stop touching me, calling me chef in this sing-songy voice that felt more like a TikTok bit than affection. "Chef, what's for dinner tonight?" she'd say, loud enough for her Instagram story to catch it. Her tone wasn't admiration, it was branding. She started introducing me to her friends as my husband, the viral sensation, giggling like she'd just discovered me. At her next client event, she made me wear my apron and accidentally mentioned I'd been on TV. She posed us in front of our kitchen, told me to hold a whisk like it was a trophy, and then she posted it, tagging my cooking page for the first time ever. Caption, "Proud wife moment. So excited for what's next in our foodie journey." Our journey? Where was this energy when I was filming voiceovers at 2 a.m.? When I was making dinner alone on my birthday while she laughed with her friends? Where was all this love when she was mocking me over Bluetooth?
She wanted to be part of the success story, not the struggle. And I'll admit, at first, I let her.
I smiled for the photos. I let her repost my videos. I even said thank you when she complimented a dish. But emotionally, I was done. The man she used to belittle, he wasn't here anymore. The version of me that craved her validation, that second-guessed his own voice, that tiptoed around her sarcasm. He died the night I heard her laugh at my dream, and the man standing in his place had no plans to let her back in, even if she hadn't realized it yet. The email came on a Monday morning, buried between spam and a shipping notification for a spatula set I didn't remember ordering. It was from a content producer at a mid-sized streaming platform. Nothing massive, but real. They'd seen my TV segment, followed my social media growth, and wanted to offer me a mini-series. 6 episodes focused on teaching simple, satisfying meals to men who'd never learned to cook. The concept was fresh. The pay? Modest, but enough to survive on. The exposure? Game-changing. The catch? I'd need to relocate for 4 months to their production campus on the West Coast. When I told Claire, she lit up like it was her career taking off. "Oh my God, babe, that's huge. We'll need to start packing. When do we fly out?" She was already pulling up Airbnb listings on her phone. I paused, gently took the phone from her hand and said, "Claire, I think I need to do this alone." She blinked, laughed like I was joking. "Wait, what?" "I appreciate your excitement," I said carefully, "but this is personal. I started it alone. I need to finish this first season that way too." Her expression shifted. "So you're excluding me now?" "I'm not excluding you," I replied. "I'm choosing myself." For once, she didn't yell. She didn't cry. But the air in the room turned heavy, like every smile we'd faked was collapsing around us. That night, she barely spoke, just scrolled through her phone, jaw clenched, lips pressed shut. But I had made up my mind. For the first time in our marriage, I was putting my dream ahead of her comfort. And I knew. There was no way things would ever go back to the way they were. It didn't happen right away. For a few days after I told her I'd be relocating alone, Claire walked around the apartment like a ghost with a grudge. Quiet, passive-aggressive, dishes slammed instead of placed. Doors half closed a little too hard. Then one night, it finally snapped. I was packing a few things, just a trial bag to see what I'd need, and she stood in the doorway of our bedroom, arms crossed, eyes sharp. "You think you're better than me now?" she said, voice trembling, not from sadness, but from fury. I looked up. "What?" "You get one viral video, a few sponsorships, and suddenly you're this big shot chef? You used to be a guy in cargo pants with spreadsheets and a spice rack. Now you think you're some kind of Gordon Ramsay." She kept going, each word hitting harder. "You're not special, you're just lucky. A phase. You cook in a tiny apartment kitchen and think the world owes you a platform." I sat on the edge of the bed, letting her vent, my hands folded in my lap. I didn't defend myself. Didn't interrupt, I just listened. When she finally stopped, waiting for a reaction, I looked up at her. Calm, clear, done. "You never saw me," I said. "You saw someone you could manage? Someone small enough to control but useful enough to keep around." The silence after that felt heavier than any shouting could have. I stood, grabbed the bag I'd half-packed and walked to the door. She didn't stop me. I booked a hotel for the night. Just a cheap room on the edge of town, but the moment I shut that door behind me, I exhaled for the first time in years. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I just felt light, because deep down, I knew I wasn't coming back. Filming started 2 weeks after I left. The production campus was tucked into a sleepy coastal town, with clean air, loud birds, and a kitchen studio that felt like heaven. Stainless steel counters, professional lighting. A pantry stocked better than any grocery store I'd ever stepped foot in. But what hit me hardest was the people. Every single person on that set, camera operators, producers, the culinary consultant assigned to oversee the recipe logistics, they treated me like I belonged there. Like I wasn't some imposter playing pretend, but an actual chef with something to say. After the first shoot, a simple beginner's Sunday roast, the director clapped and shouted, "That's the one." The crew applauded. A few even whistled. I laughed, nervous at first. But then something settled in my chest. I wasn't faking it. Fans started messaging me after teasers aired. One guy wrote, "I made your mac and cheese for my daughter. First time she's ever asked for seconds." Another said, "I'm 43, never boiled an egg. Your confidence gave me the guts to try." I'd read those messages late at night in my trailer, phone glowing in the dark, heart swelling in ways I didn't know it could anymore. Back home, I had been the quirky husband with a hobby. Here, I was someone with purpose, not just for the audience, but for myself. Each episode wasn't just about food. It was about reclaiming space, rebuilding identity. Every time I looked into the camera and said, "You can do this," I felt like I was saying it to the version of me who used to cook in silence, while his wife rolled her eyes. And I knew. He finally believed it. It came late one night, just after we'd wrapped shooting episode 4. I was in my trailer half asleep, nursing a cup of cold chamomile tea when my phone buzzed with a message. "Claire, the preview line alone told me everything." "I know I hurt you." I opened it. 5 full paragraphs. She wrote that she was sorry, for minimizing my dream, for laughing behind my back, for turning my passion into a punchline. She said she hadn't realized how much she'd let her own fears speak for her, how she thought if she kept me small, I wouldn't leave. She admitted that watching me grow without her was painful. That she missed me. That the apartment felt too quiet now. She ended it with, "I'm proud of you." I really am. I just wish I'd said it sooner. For a moment, I just stared at the screen, and surprisingly, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel joy either, just quiet. I typed back slowly, "Thank you for saying that. I wish you meant it when I needed it most." No period. No emoji, just truth. I didn't block her. I didn't lash out. But I didn't follow up either, because I'd learned something since leaving. Forgiveness doesn't require reconnection. Some people apologize not because they've changed, but because they see you have. And even though part of me ached for the version of her I wanted to believe in, I knew that person only existed in my imagination, so I left the door closed, not out of spite, but out of peace. The show dropped on a Thursday morning. No big premiere. No red carpet. Just a quiet upload to the platform, episode 1 titled Start with Salt. I watched it alone from my trailer with headphones on, half holding my breath. It opened with a tight shot of my hands seasoning chicken, the voiceover calm and clear. Cooking isn't about perfection. It's about paying attention. By noon, my phone was vibrating nonstop. The episode hit YouTube's trending page within hours, sure to eat by dinner time. Twitter lit up with clips of my 3-ingredient garlic butter hack. TikTok duets rolled in like a tide, and then came the emails. A major food brand wanted to license my pasta recipe for their frozen meal line. Another offered me an endorsement deal, something I used to joke about back when Claire would laugh and say, "Let's be realistic." I got invited to speak at a culinary expo in Chicago. The theme? Second act success stories. They wanted me to close out the panel with a demo and a short talk about rediscovering purpose later in life. I stared at the invitation for a long time. Not because I was unsure, but because a few months ago, I couldn't have imagined any of this happening without her next to me. Now, her name didn't even cross the paperwork. This was mine. Not in a spiteful way, not to prove her wrong, but in a peaceful, full-circle way, like the universe had handed me back everything I gave away in silence. This chapter had nothing to do with Claire. No apologies. No revenge, just momentum, clarity, and freedom. And as I stood in front of that studio kitchen prepping for season 2, I finally felt it in my bones. I had become the man I always knew I could be. She asked to meet on a Sunday. Neutral ground, her words. A coffee shop halfway between where she lived and where I didn't anymore. I said yes. Not out of hope, not out of spite, just a need for closure. She was already sitting when I walked in, clutching a mug like it was keeping her together. No makeup, eyes swollen. When she looked up at me, she smiled, but it didn't reach her face. I didn't realize, she began, voice cracking, how much damage my words caused. I nodded, waiting. I thought I was being practical, she continued. I didn't mean to belittle you. She stopped, choking on her own sentence. I didn't think you'd actually leave. I stirred my coffee. No bitterness in me. Just clarity. I think, I said slowly, you loved the version of me you could explain to your friends. The guy with the stable job, the one who stayed in his lane. She looked down. We were never partners, I added. You weren't building with me. You were just observing. A critic sitting in the front row of my life. Her eyes welled up. But she didn't argue, she nodded.
Because deep down, she knew I was right. We signed the papers the next week.
No drawn-out fights. No back and forths. Just the quiet closing of a door we'd both left open for too long. And as I walked away from that table, I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel broken, I just felt done, and sometimes that's all the closure you need. I moved into a loft downtown. Nothing fancy, but open, light-filled, and quiet. The kind of space where your thoughts echo and you can hear yourself breathe. I converted the main area into a studio kitchen, bought a second-hand prep table, mounted soft lights along the ceiling, and lined the walls with shelves full of spices, cookbooks, and cast iron pans that actually told stories. It wasn't just a home, it was a beginning. I started writing a cookbook. Not for fame, not for sales, but because people kept asking me for more than videos. They wanted something real, a piece of me they could hold. I titled it Comfort Food for the Unseen. Between writing sessions, I guest collabed with other chefs, filmed season 2 of the show, and taught Saturday classes at a culinary school. Mostly to guys who, like me, once thought dreams were for other people. The work was constant, but it didn't drain me. It fed me. One day after filming a holiday special, the producer asked me why I never talked about the woman who didn't believe in you. I smiled and said, because this was never about proving her wrong. It wasn't. This journey was about proving me right. About peeling back every layer of doubt and saying, I still believe in you, to the man who once hid in his own kitchen. I end every episode the same way now. It started as a throwaway line, but people quote it back to me like scripture. Your dream doesn't need approval, just seasoning and heat. And every time I say it, I still feel that fire in my chest, the one that started the night I realized I didn't need permission to matter. I just needed a knife, a pan, and the guts to begin. People always ask if I'm angry at Claire. If I ever think about what could have been, if she had supported me, believed in me, stayed by my side, the truth is, I don't hate her. I don't even resent her anymore. I think she was scared. Scared that if I grew, I'd outgrow her. Scared that my dream might actually take root, and in doing so, leave her behind. Control can feel a lot like love when you're afraid, but silence isn't kindness. Minimizing someone isn't protection, and calling a dream cute doesn't make it less sacred. It just reveals how little you understand what it costs to hold on to hope. Her betrayal didn't break me. It lit something I didn't know was there. A fire. A hunger, not for revenge, but for truth. For becoming the man I always saw in flashes when I stirred a pot, or plated a dish, or closed my eyes and imagined a tiny food truck with my name on it. These days, my life isn't perfect, but it's mine. Fully, authentically, quietly on fire in the best way. I make meals that carry stories. I teach kids who never saw a future for themselves. I wake up excited to create, not because I want to prove anything to the world, but because I get to. Every meal I make is a little love letter to the boy who cooked to be seen, to the man who stayed too quiet for too long, and to anyone out there who thinks their dream is too small, too late, too silly. You can grow in the dark. You just need heat.